Hello all you debaters. Today's debate skill is focusing on point of informations. This will hopefully be a guide to help you become better at asking and answering questions during your debates. In this video, we're going to try to accomplish 6 things. I know that's a lot, but when answering and asking questions, there's a lot we have to do. The first thing we have to do is figure out what is a POI. Then we're going to talk about different types of questions related to what a questioner should try to do, its goals and its purpose. After that, we're going to talk about a few key tips that a questioner should focus on when asking POIs. Then we're going to switch over to the speaker side, and we're going to see exactly how you should answer POIs, and then again, some tips for the speaker. Finally, we have some strategies involved on how to ask and answer POIs and kind of how to use POIs in your next debate. What is a POI? A POI is known as a point of information. It allows you to ask your opponent a question during their speech. Now, this doesn't have to always be a question. However, in this video, we're going to be focusing on the question aspects. You can make a statement, such as, "This is not what my evidence said." Statements like this shows the judge that you're paying attention. However, these arguments and statements could be made during your next speech or your partner's next speech. So it is better to ask questions, build a strategy, so then you can gain more ground later in the debate. Today, we're only going to focus on 3 types of questions that you can ask during a POI. Now, if you know any other types of questions or are interested in commenting your opinions about these, please mention this down below in the comment section. But today, we're only going to focus on 3 types again: clarification questions, qualification questions, and follow-up questions. Clarification questions are meant to help clarify information that the speaker said. To do this, all you have to do is say, "Oh, POI, can you explain again your second argument?" Or, "What was the refutation you made against my argument?" The goal of these questions is to gather information. So you want to try and avoid simple questions that are yes or no answers. What I mean by this is, in the example, did you say solar energy is cost effective? The speaker can easily say yes, and then move on with that person's speech. However, if you ask a better question, such as, "Please explain how cost-effective solar energy is," now the speaker has to spend time explaining, maybe even restating the evidence. By doing this, you're giving yourself more time to understand the argument, and you're making the speaker spend more time reiterating what they already said. Next, we have qualification questions. Qualification questions are questions where you ask the speaker information about maybe the evidence or the arguments they made to help qualify some of the arguments that they made. What I mean by this is that if a person makes an argument and the evidence may seem a little old, you may want to qualify and make that an argument later in your speech. So you may ask, what was the source of your evidence? You may also ask, how does your evidence support your reason to this argument? For a speaker, this can be a very difficult question to answer. So you may stumble and you may make mistakes. With qualification questions, you're able to qualify exactly how strong the arguments are that the speaker makes and prove to your judge potentially how weak they are also. Now, keep in mind that these arguments are meant to try and find a flaw. You don't want to spend too much time answering or asking questions. You just want to make a point and then move on and prepare for the next speech. While in POIs it may be difficult to ask multiple questions, a multiple and follow-up type of question format can be useful in strengthening your team. A follow-up question requires you to ask 1 or 2 more questions from the original question. Your goal is to try and trap the opponent into making a flaw with their logic. To do this, you may want to ask a simple question, such as, "You argued that zoos help take care of animals, correct? Then why does your evidence say that the zookeepers don't have the time to properly maintain all of the zoo animals' healthy needs?" An example like this can be very tricky to use, however. So I only recommend this if you are very comfortable using POIs and are able to, take the time in making these follow-up questions. You want to make sure that your follow-up questions lead to an end goal. You don't want to be just questioning. So you need to practice, and you need to make sure that your questions don't lead up to a result that the other person already knows about. Then it's not really a trap. When it comes to tips for the questioner, you want to make sure that as a questioner, you're not being too abusive. What we mean by abusive is that you're not just popping up and down saying, oh, POI, 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 POI. That's very rude. You want to make sure that you are very courteous and very respectful to your teammates and also to the opponents. Also, you want to make sure that you give the speaker time to answer your questions. You don't want to ask a question and then immediately start your follow-up question right after that. You want to give the speaker time to answer the question completely. That way you can get a good answer from them. The final thing that you should do as a questioner is make the questions short and concise. This is very difficult sometimes when you're making questions. You may want to ask a very elaborate question. However, you want to make your questions concise and short. If you need to, write them down on your notes. This may help you when you ask the question later so that you can see what it should be saying. Also, it may be a good idea to make sure that your questions relate to the arguments that the speaker is making. By doing this, you will definitely become better at asking POIs. Now we've come to the part of answering a POI. Now, this may be the hardest part with POIs because it can be very stressful and scary having to know how to properly answer a question that someone asked. Now, when someone asks a question, you want to focus on the keywords. Okay, now we know that at least in Korea, English is a second language for all students, which means that you need to be able to focus on kind of what the message is that's being explained and then answer it as best as you can. Now, don't be afraid to clarify. Ask them, what do you mean, or can you re-explain? Showing gratitude is a good way of improving your speaking points as well. Now, if you don't know what to say, a key strategy here as the speaker could go two different ways. First, I will try to answer your question at the end of my speech. This is a very polite way of saying that if I have time, I will try to answer your question. However, you're probably thinking to yourself, I'm probably not going to have time. So, answer truthfully. If I have time, I'll try to answer. But that, you may not be able to answer. That way, the stress level may be a little bit further down. You may be able to finish your speech better without worrying about the question. Now, the other thing you can do is pass that responsibility off to your partner. You could say, my partner will try and answer that question in their next speech. By doing this, you're answering the question, but you're also explaining that, you don't have time to do this. Maybe your partner will do this. That way, your partner now has time to take notes of what the question was. Maybe they can answer it. You don't have to answer every question. Remember that. You should only answer probably one question per speech because your speeches, again, are limited. So, answering POIs, they're not as hard as you thought. Just try to answer one. You may even not get any, depending on the opponents that you have. As a speaker, you want to also be very polite. When someone's asking you a question, be polite when answering. Don't try to shrug them off and be like, what type of question was that? You want to be nice and polite as well. Second, don't try to, dance away from the question. You want to be very direct and you want to answer the question correctly, because if the judge sees you squirming or, trying to repeat yourself in a way that's not really telling the answer, you're going to lose points and you're probably going to not be a good speaker in the debate. Finally, you want to also make sure that your answers are honest. Don't lie about evidence. Don't explain something that doesn't make any sense or, is illogical. Just tell the truth, be honest, and you'll do fine when answering POIs. Now comes the fun part, the strategy. Even if you're not comfortable asking POIs, you may still want to ask them to help build a strategy for your team. Some things that POIs can help you do as the questioner. You can take time away from the speaker. A speaker's speech is always limited. No matter how long it is always going to be limited. That means that the more time you get them to answer your questions, the less time they get to make their arguments. Also, if it takes time for them to answer, that gives your teammates time to prepare their next speech. You don't have to worry about missing any arguments. You don't have to worry about not being prepared. Even if there's no preparation time in between speeches, a good POI can give your teammate extra time to make that better argument. Additionally, it shows that you're paying attention. In a debate, it's supposed to be interactive. You're supposed to have the pro team and the con team, or the op team. And if there are two teams just making speeches, not refuting, not rebutting, a judge doesn't know who to vote for. However, if you're able to ask a good POI, the judge can see that you're paying attention and you're engaged in the speech that the other team made. Finally, it can be redemption. Now, I've given plenty of bad speeches in my debates. My high school debate partner can attest to that. However, if you're able to ask a good POI, you might be able to get some more speaker points and improve your position in the judge's eyes. POIs will always be good for improving speaker points. So, try to do that in your next speech, and we'll see who becomes the best debater in that debate round. Now, this is a secret that I've told only the debaters who are competing in debate competition. But there is also strategy when it comes to who asks the questions. Now, when the first pro speaker comes up and gives their speech, the third or second op speaker should ask a POI. This helps prepare the first op speaker when their speech comes. When the first op speaker comes up, then it is the first pro speaker or the third pro speaker's responsibility to ask questions and delay the first op speaker's speech. So then the second pro has time to prepare. The second pro then will give their speech. Who do you think should ask questions to them? You're right, it's the first op. Since the first op speeches are done, they now have the responsibility to ask questions to the second pro. This gives them time to figure out what the second pro's responses are, and it gives the second op time to prepare. When the second op gives their speech, there are not many speeches after, there are no speeches actually after this that allow for POIs. So this means that the second pro now, since they're done with their speeches, should ask questions to the second op. Give their third pro speaker time to write down, understand everything that the second pro speaker has said. Now, if you notice in the footnotes down below, it says that if your teammate needs help making refutations or rebuttals, one teammate should help ask the question and the other one should help their teammate. Remember, this is a team game. We're trying to help your teammates be successful because one person, cannot win the debate. So, hopefully with this strategy, you'll become better at asking questions, answering questions, and using them in a more strategic manner in debate moving forward. As we wrap up this video, we have a couple of key reminders. First, always remember your questions should have a purpose. You should not just raise your hand, say POI, and then sit down. You should not just raise your hand, POI, and not know what you're going to say. POIs require preparation. They should have a purpose to accomplish something in the debate. Also remember, POIs can be very strategic. Use this strategy towards your advantage. Prevent the other team from using it against you. And finally, remember to be respectful and polite. Debate is about arguing with words, not with fists. So be polite, use your words as your weapon, and explain to the judge why your team ended up the better team in your debate. Thank you everyone for watching this video and taking time out of your day to understand more about POIs. Again, if there are other questions you have, or if there are other types of questions we missed or strategies, please comment below your thoughts about this debate video. Also, we have some other debate videos related to POIs and debate skills. So click this little eye up here to find and watch some other videos you may be interested in. Now, as we're developing more videos here in the Reading Pioneers debate channel, please follow along and keep track by subscribing. We will be having a couple of more videos, hopefully every week, but with scheduling it may be difficult. But if you follow along over here, we have a couple of other videos that we're in production of. If you have ideas for future videos, again, comment or email, let us know. From Reading Pioneers Debates, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have an amazing day.